Hi everyone, I'm Josh.
And I'm Jim, and this is the Dapper Meeple.
This show is about our love of gaming, the games we play, and the gaming community around this passion.
So pull up a chair, put on your Dapper Meeple hat, and join us at the table. Hey kids, remember, this is an adult podcast and may contain adult language.
Also, Dapper Meeple hat, not required. Today we're talking with one of our own local celebrities, Viva Valentina.
She's a cosplayer, the convention coordinator for Dragon Shield, D&D fanatic, and a self-proclaimed nerdy lifestyle enthusiast.
We'll be talking to her about representation in gaming, her own podcast, The Show Pal Show, and what it's like to actually meet Matt Mercer.
Well, before he was the household name that we all know today. Hey, so grab your favorite Stuffie, kids, and enjoy.
All that and more coming up on this episode of the Dapper Meeple.
We are fortunate enough to have another guest with us. I met her, years ago, when my daughter thought she was going to be a full-time cosplayer. And we got dressed up, and we went to Tidewater Comic-Con, and we put together her Rey costume, like pre-lightsaber Rey. So we got to make her staff and everything, and we met someone there. And we wrote back and forth for a while, and then as the pandemic happened, we kind of lost touch. And while we were up at PAX this year, we ran into Viva Valentina.
Surprise!
So it was great. You were working at the Dragon Shield booth.
Yes. Dragon Shield.
They are, for those that may not be familiar, it's a company that specifically makes card sleeves, right? Really nice card sleeves too. They got a lot of options.
Best.
Yeah. So if you're listening, but we met up there again, and the first couple of days I walked past the booth, and I was like, "Is that her?" Because you were wearing your ears.
Yes, I always wear my elf ears when I work at convention.
That makes sense. Like that totally checks out.
First of all, that's not how you say. You were like, "I think I know her," and my response was, "Okay, sure."
To be fair, I'm more of the extrovert between the two of us. So I think I know a lot of people. Like, have I told you about my new motherfucking best friend, Keith Baker?
Who's Keith Baker? Tell me about him.
He is the guy that wrote the Eberron setting. The Eberron for D&D.
Oh, wow.
He was at PAX, and we were standing in line at the soda, the Wild Bill's.
Soda.
Oh, man.
And Josh has a backpack that holds everything. So we just clipped our cups on that. So I was like, let me get my cup. And I turn around, and I go to unclip it, and there's this dude in this leather cowboy hat looking deal. And I was like, "You're Keith Baker." And he said, "Yes, I am." And we got to talk in line, and it was fantastic.
That is neat. That's what's so cool about conventions is you never know who you're going to run into, and you never know who's just going to be like out in the wild.
Right? Yep. Right? That's the best. That's the part that I love the best. The year before that we went in 2019, I got to meet Kate Welsh, and just she was amazing. Everything I thought she would be when I met her in person. It was great. That whole "don't meet your heroes" thing, ignore that.
Oh, yeah.
Chase them down. I mean, not like stalkery, but so yeah.
Chase them friendly,
So we got back to you, and we got a chance to talk, and we were like, "Hey, by the way, we do this podcast thing now," and you agreed to come on. So
I love podcasts.
I'm so happy to have you here. It is great to have you. We've had a pretty good string of guests here lately. Like everybody cleared up this summer, and we've been able to talk to people. So here you are. I guess let's start with what you do in geek. How about that? Like,
cool, yeah.
where is your heart in the geek world?
Oh man. Okay. Well, I can't answer that question without giving a little bit of my background.
Perfectly okay. Go for that.
So my name is Viva Valentina. I go by Tina. I work for Dragon Shield, so I'm the convention coordinator. I plan our convention appearances and man and stock the booth and sell Dragon Shield, which are the best card sleeves for any collectible card game, tabletop card game, Magic the Gathering, Commander players, we love you. Dragon Shield is the best. So that is my quote-unquote day job.
Got it.
But I started as a cosplayer, and I worked for the company, and then started getting in deeper with that. And I still cosplay. I'm still cosplaying. You can check me out at Tidewater Comic Con in May. That's coming up. But then I also run my own small business, which is the Stuffy Spa. Stuffy Spa is a stuffed animal restoration business. I got my start on TikTok, restoring my own childhood stuffed animals during the pandemic, and it just kind of exploded from there. So where I am in geek, oh my gosh. So one, stuffed animals. Always loved stuffed animals. I'm the plushy queen. I have mountains and mountains of stuffed animals. Right now I'm currently collecting Hello Kitty plush, which is a very dangerous slippery slope. I don't suggest it to anybody.
I was going to say, that stuff is all over the place. There are so many.
And they're just killing it right now. So stuffed animals. I'm also like super into Star Wars. That was one of my first loves,
right.
I'd say. Star Wars, DC Comics, Batman, Catwoman, and fantasy sci-fi. Lord of the Rings was like my very first, I would say, thing. Like Star Wars I grew up on, so
right.
It's like always been there. But the first thing I ever like nerded out about was Lord of the Rings. And like 7th grade, reading these books changed my entire life. Comic books, anime, getting into all that. And then in about 2017 was when I started playing D&D. And again, changed my entire life.
I love how many people will tell us that. Yeah. Like D&D was such a huge thing. Like, I know we've talked about it a lot on the show, and I've been a D&D player since 99. I caught the tail end of 2nd edition, rolled right into 3rd, skipped 4, and we've played 5 pretty religiously.
Skip 4?
I know. I think I was in the Navy and deploying and doing crazy stuff, and I was playing a bunch of other systems at the time, like White Wolf. I played some Lord of the Rings. Some of the other like D20 systems that were out there, but just kind of missed 4. Then I was like, I'm going to get back into D&D, and I bought a bunch of stuff for 4, and then 5 came out. So
now, which is your favorite?
I really like 5.
Yeah,
I really like 5. I think it lends itself well to story, with giving me enough freedom when I'm running a game that I can just I can wing something and it's okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it works really well for me to tell a story, and that's the part that I love about it.
Well, that's the whole point of D&D. So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That whole, the cooperative storytelling aspect. Yeah, yeah. So what got you, I mean, being a cosplayer, like, that's a huge thing in itself. Yeah. Like, that is its own chunk of the community.
Yeah, I don't suggest it to anybody.
Again?
Cosplay is a very expensive hobby. Yeah, I love it and I hate it.
Right. Right. I can only imagine, because every now and then I'll get this wild kind of tear, and I'm like, I'm going to do my own cosplay, but I want to build
a Reinhardt suit or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You should start simple. Not my style, baby. Not my style.
No, you can never just go small with cosplay. It's always just, you always gotta dye some fabrics or go out and hot glue something or spray paint something at 3:00 in the morning. It's wild. It's wild. I hate it. I don't suggest it to anybody.
I feel like we have a lot of things that we talk about on this show that fall into that category, where it's just like, I mean, you can try this, but when it consumes your life, like, I don't want you to call me back and tell me I was wrong. I'm warning you now.
Well, I mean, do you really love something if you don't
doesn't
hate it?
Yeah, right? Fair. Totally fair.
Oh, man. But what got me into D&D?
So, yeah, what did you start with 5th edition? Because 2017 was 5th.
So I started with 5th edition. I think it's the best. It's been great.
Yeah.
I do primarily play a lot of homebrew, but that's just because I get to play with a lot of really cool DMs, and my DMs are really good at homebrew. But I started playing 5th edition in about 2017. We used to have tabletop night at Comic Kings here in Virginia Beach.
Yep, I know that one.
Oh my god, and it was on a whim. I had dabbled in D&D before at a friend's house, and I had played with a couple friends, but never enough to really get into a campaign,
right?
Or, really play D&D. And I had almost no knowledge of the rules, no way of like playing the game. Like I was kind of going through the motions before, but I didn't start playing until we started doing tabletop night.
Right.
And it was, again, on a whim. I saw it on Facebook and I was like, I'm going to go to that after work. Like, I'm just going to go straight after work. I'm just going to show up. And it was like beginner friendly. You don't need anything. I was like, yep, I'm just going to show up. I sat down at a table and I looked to my left and this girl, Kat, was sitting there. And I was like, oh, hi. And she's like, hey. And that was how I had known Kat, but we had never really like been friends on our own terms until we started playing D&D together. And now she's like one of my best friends ever. So it was just like this magical experience. And then we fell into this campaign with all these new players, and it turned into a 3-year-long campaign that we played every Tuesday night for 3 years.
That's commitment.
That's like mind-boggling now, because after like we finished this 3-year campaign in February of 2020.
Right.
And then the world ended.
I was going to say, oh my God, I think you guys are responsible.
We saved the world. I don't know.
Allegedly.
But like now we're still playing over Discord, and you'd think that it would be, easier to play every week, but like not playing face to face just feels like different.
It is. Mm-hmm. I think it definitely is. Yeah.
So those are the golden years. 3 years, 3-year-long campaign.
Wow, that's. I don't think I've had a campaign that's gone that long that I played in every week. We have a group that we play online, so we do Roll20 in Discord, and we've been together almost 4 years now.
Almost.
Yeah. And me and him have traded off DM duties a couple times, just but I mean, our longest run so far in a single run is like what, a week or a week, a year.
Wow.
We just do 1 week, then we have to take a break.
Shit falls apart. Our group really isn't organized.
It's a great group though.
We're joking, but it's really not that far off. But yeah, so we've ran about a year, but we've had the same group, the same core anyway.
Yeah.
For about 4 years now. So I mean, there's just something. Playing face to face for us is impossible because 2 of our members are out in South Dakota.
Oh wow! Yeah.
We met them playing Xbox.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We were playing Xbox Live, and me and him were talking, and he was like, "Man, I want to run D&D because."
That was right after I got into it, because I came in on 5th edition too. I'd never played before either. I came from the board game side of the hobby, so that's how I got into like most nerd things. So I wanted to run my own game because I was like, "This is awesome! I love creating stuff. I love all things fantasy." So we were talking one night on Xbox, and our friends were like, "We want to play." I was like, "All right, there's our group." Yeah,
bam.
Go. But yeah, no, it's a good group. We've been together. We've had a few people come in and come out, that sort of thing. But yeah, we try to play every week, but that's the hardest part about D&D is schedules.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yes. Oh my God.
That's the game killer right there.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We did our session 0 and we talked about it for this one because we just started a new campaign that I'm running in the Eberron setting. And the thing that kills games is scheduling. And we have 2 new people in. One of them's not new. One of them is kind of my consummate DM, Leslie. She's been on the show with us before, so she's actually playing in my game for the first time.
Nice.
So, and then the other is the woman that I've been dating for about a year. She runs the D&D club at her high school, but she's never played.
What?
Yeah. So we got it.
She leads others to a treasure she cannot possess.
Right. I don't know how I'm going to work that into the game, but I'm going to now.
But now it is.
Now it is. So you started playing. You're with this group. I know that you also do a lot of like advocacy type work, and you get out and talk to people. I've seen you a lot. Like I said, we followed your Instagram feed and stuff. But like Nerds of Color and some of the stuff like that.
Yes.
I mean, I can totally understand why you would be involved in that. But I mean, how did they approach you, or was that something that you were like, "Wow, I found this thing I love, and I want everybody to do it, no matter what"?
Well, so with like Nerds of Color and my own podcast, the Show Pow Show, which is a Filipino culture podcast.
I've seen that one. We were going to ask you about
Yes!
What is that?
Yeah.
So when, world was ending in 2020 and, you kind of have to pivot things and things are put into perspective for you. I had felt this need to kind of pivot what I do.
Yeah.
Cause I'm a cosplayer. I was like young and hot on the internet for a few years in my 20s, having fun with my friends. Like we'd go into cons, making costumes, just, being nerding out, loving the things that we do. But I realized that there's just like so many other things that I care about. There's social justice issues. There are things that I want to do for my community. I want to celebrate, my heritage. I want to talk about issues that matter.
Right.
And I realized that my whole shtick, or my whole goal of being on the internet or having influence specifically is to make people care about these issues too.
Yeah.
So like when Black Lives Matter came out, I was like, we need to talk about this and we need to share this. And I want the people specifically that follow me to know that this is something that I care about and this is something that I support. And I want to feel comfortable in my own space to talk about those things. So when I kind of made that switch, it was one, making my content more real and dear to my heart.
Right.
And also, again, cultivating that influence so that others will care about the things that I care about as well.
Yeah.
And lately too, I feel like I've been struggling a lot with my mental health and with grief.
Right.
And that's something that like I want to be able to talk openly about these things. I want to be able to share my experiences. I want to be like, hey, I've been struggling. I haven't posted. I haven't been, doing the things that maybe you recognize me for doing.
Right.
Because things are changing and like I'm getting older and I'm so old, guys. I'm 30. I'm sorry, that sounds so dramatic.
I haven't slapped a guest yet, but
it's an awfully small table.
So yeah, like as I'm getting older, and entering this new decade of my life, I'm realizing like the things again that are important to me and what I want to talk about and what I want people to follow me for.
Right.
So again, it was really cool being young and hot on the internet, but like I got a lot more to say.
Right. There's, a time to like kind of, especially when you do get a platform and you do have people that follow you, I feel people have a responsibility to do something with that.
I agree.
I totally agree. And we've been, we put this together because this is something that we love to do. And we've talked about a lot of issues on here early on, just in our community, the stuff that we deal with. Like, firm believer that everybody has a seat at this table.
Yes.
I don't care. Unless you're like a Nazi, then we're going to, you know what I'm saying? But
only if you're playing a historically accurate role-playing game.
If you're in this box right here, then you can do it. But I totally agree. And I think the pandemic did a lot for a lot of people where it was like, hey, things change and things change quickly and you make a decision about what's important to you. And I will say, as somebody that's 40, getting older, you start doing that. And then especially if you have small people who you're dealing with as well, you're like, oh, I want you to do something with your life and I want you to, enjoy it, but understand that there are things that are important, and you got to pick those. So totally agree. Right. So how often do you do your podcast?
So we record weekly. And we interview just the movers and shakers in the Filipino community. We've interviewed actors, authors, activists, magicians, writers, all kinds of people. We've interviewed Dante Bosco. We've interviewed Carolyn Faye, who's the Lola from Blue's Clues.
I was going to say that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
nice,
so
nice.
Some really really big names in our community talking about representation and how important representation is, and just really kind of demystifying our own culture. I'm half Filipino, half white, and I've always felt this imposter syndrome when it comes to Filipino culture, that I'm either not enough or I didn't get an authentic experience. And one of our main messages, along with representation, is that we're not a monolith. So, and that applies for any group, for all nerd groups, for all nationalities, for all ethnicities. But we're not a monolith, and everybody has different stories, and everybody has something that they add to it.
Yeah.
And it's been wonderful, just this exploration and this celebration of it. So,
right.
And venturing into the podcast world is wild. So
yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
So major props to y'all who edit these. I just get to get on and talk to people and have a good time.
Yeah.
But, so shout out to Patrick, my Kuya P, who produces and organizes our Show Pow show. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. What's the name of it one more time? Just people
Show
here.
Pow show.
Cool.
So and we'll
I'll put a link in
links
the
and things like that. But yeah, check it out if you just want to hear us. Talk about where we came from and talk about where we're going and just the really cool things that we're doing. Just in all realms.
Right.
Us Filipinos were out there. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I imagine the community's like pretty large here in this area.
Oh yeah,
I was
we're
gonna
in like I call it the Filipino Asian triangle, because I live like between the Filipino convention or cultural center, the Jollibee, and like the Kung Fu Tea. Like there's this like triangle.
God, nice. I know exactly where you are
because I'm right there.
Right?
Yes. So hit up Jollibee, hit up Kung Fu Tea, and then go to the Filipino convention.
Right. And for those of you that don't know what Jollibee is, I think we have one of them in this area. And you can get fried chicken and spaghetti together. It's fantastic. It is like Filipino fast food is the way they explained it to me.
Yep. And there was only like 3 on the East Coast, and Virginia Beach has one because Hampton Roads, the community is just huge here.
Yeah.
And, and thanks to the Navy.
I was going to say.
A lot of people here.
I love that you're still into the whole geek thing, even as you're getting older.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Do you think you're moving away from it at all, or do you feel like?
Oh no! I got adult money now, so
we talk about that all the time.
All of us geeky kids that just got like the shit stomped out of us when we were younger for being geeks. Now we've all got adult money, and now what are you going to do?
Yeah,
right.
I think we're single-handedly responsible for doing what Marvel has done in the movie theater. That's.
Oh man, yeah, I funded that.
Yeah, right. Right? I feel like I'm owed a severance check or something. Like, I mean, I took a beating for you guys a long time ago.
Just a little footnote in the credits.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll take it. That's all. Yeah. Yeah.
So no, but like as like diversifying content, doing my own thing, getting on TikTok, like things are just different. But I find myself like doing more, but differently.
Yes.
And then, yeah, pretty much sums
Yeah.
it up. Doing more, but differently.
That's a good. Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it, especially as you like you said, as you decide that, hey, I also care about these things and I want to talk about them as well. So when you came into this, I mean, you've been a cosplayer for a while. D&D. You had a card game too, weren't you playing tournaments?
Oh man. Okay, so yeah, that.
We do our homework here at the Dapper Meeple.
Yeah. Oh man, you guys are bringing up old stuff. So, let me give you a little like background into how I started working for Dragon Shield. I started working for Dragon Shield when they owned the card game The Spoils.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm not a big TCG player. Not a big TCG player. Disclaimer out there. I played this game though, and I loved it. It was debauchery and wildness. But they produced The Spoils, which was a TCG, and I would travel to the tournaments and things that they would do. I've been to Origins Con with them, Origins Game Fair, and a couple different tournaments and stuff. And it was really cool because, you know, like I'd fly out, I'd dress up in costume from the game and like demo the game for people, hang out and just be amongst people. And I thought it was super cool. And then they decided not to make spoils anymore, which is, you know, seasons come and go with TCGs, except for, you know, Magic,
that one,
Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, right.
The Holy Trinity.
Yeah. They shall never pass.
Right. So when they decided not to do the spoils anymore, my coworker and good friend Ian was like, "Well, we're not doing this anymore. But do you want to come to Gen Con and work for Dragon Shield?" And I was like, "I don't know what that is. Sign me up. Like, I don't care."
Yeah, right.
And that was 2017. That was the 50th anniversary of Gen Con.
Yeah.
It was my very first Gen Con. I had just gotten into D&D earlier that year. I was stoked. I was like, all right, cool. And we worked the booth. I love the booth. I just love talking to people. People love Dragon Shield, and they love telling us that they love Dragon Shield, and I love hearing that they love Dragon Shield. So it just really started there. And over the years of working for this company, I worked for them for almost 5 years now. Now they're like, "Well, Tina, you must know what you're talking about. Why don't you coordinate the conventions?" And I'm like, all right, yeah, cool. Yeah, sign me up.
Right.
So here we are.
Nice.
I have a crazy story from 2018 Gen Con. This was was it 2018 or 2017? It was 2018 Gen Con. I had just gotten into so I've been playing D&D for maybe about a year now.
Right.
And this was the year that Critical Role had a merch booth. And my DM was like, "Oh, Tina, you're going to Gen Con. Like, can you stop by this booth and get me some merch?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, easy peasy. I got you." I went by the booth and I bought some pins, and I asked the guy behind the counter, I was like, "Hey, do you guys ever do any, like, vendor trades? Like, you know, I'll give you some merch and you give me some merch?" And he was like, where are you at? And I was like, "Oh, I'm over at the Dragon Shield booth." And he's like, "Okay, I'll come find you at the end of the day." I was like, "Oh, cool. And so I was like, all right. Work the day. At the end of the day, everybody's just like, oh, exhausted. And this guy walks up and he's like, "Oh, hey, I got you some stuff." And I got like a map. It was like the map of Taldore, some like a Critical Role dice set, and some other like little odds and ends. And I was like, "Wow, thanks, man. Like, this is really great." And I was like, "Can I get you anything?" He's like, "No, I don't need anything." And then I was like, "Yeah, cool. Well, what's your name?" And he goes, I'm Matt." I was like, "Oh, cool. Thanks, Matt. Bye." And yeah.
Love where this is going.
You guys are realizing what's happening, right? So years later, I'm sorry, I'm yelling now.
No, you're good.
It blows my mind. Years later, Critical Role blows up everything. Like there's gosh, they kickstarted their thing. This is before
their
the
TV show. Yeah.
Oh my god, the TV show is just perfection. I love that.
Yep.
I'm like looking at Critical Role, and I'm like, I know that guy. I met that guy.
See, it's not just me that says stuff like this.
It was Matt Mercer. It was Matt Mercer. Matt Mercer gave me the Critical Role merch, and I was just like, "Hey, man, what's your name?" He was probably like,
He was like, "She obviously doesn't follow yet."
And I had never seen a Critical Role episode. Like, I was a baby D&D person.
Right?
Like, I didn't know.
I love that.
So that's how I inadvertently met and did not recognize Matt Mercer. So.
Right. But you can tell people. I've met Matt Mercer face to face. Like, we were right here.
And I was asking, I was like, hold up. Were they there? And then somebody had told me that, they were there that weekend at that Gen Con 2018. And they were probably working their booth because they were so new and they had just kind of started, or they were just getting popular.
I was going to say, I think that was right about the time. Look, because they were with Geek and Sundry at first.
Yeah.
And then they decided that because Felicia Day was the one who was like, "Hey, you should come play your game," and they're like, "Nobody's going to watch us play D&D.
Right.
That's crazy." Jump to a $12 million Kickstarter later.
Amazing. Oh, nerds were little.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I remember when they first came on the scene. Like I said, I've been playing for a while, and I have always been hey, like, do you want to learn to play? Like, I will teach you to play. Like, I was a pusher for a while. Like,
yeah.
you know,
sit down with me, play a game.
Right? And the difference for, again, somebody that's older.
Oh my God.
I almost remember the Satanic Panic. All right.
Oh man.
I was on the outside at that time because that's a long story. But yeah, you know, the difference between now and then is so night and day, because I have so many people that like will come up to me and be like, because I'll wear my hat or something, or I'll have like my D&D lanyard on or something. Like, wait a minute, you play D&D? Like, how do you play D&D? And I was like,
I want to try.
Come on. You're like leaving breadcrumbs into the cave and stuff. Like, come on. But yeah, it's just, I mean, it is so more open. It's so more accessible to everyone. Now, with that, you get a influx of people, and there's no way to know. There's no way to filter out people that are going to be negative for the hobby. But I know we do have tons.
There's
Tons.
still the old guard and
Well, yeah. Last year, like Ernie Gygax Jr. gets on a podcast and starts talking about, like, we want D&D the way it was, you know, when it was all men and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, hey,
no.
and the whole community collectively was like, hey, man, F this guy.
Yeah, not make D&D great again.
Right.
Oh,
Have you ran into it, or have you felt like you've had a pretty good transition in?
Yes. I don't think I hit any barriers really with getting into D&D and getting in with tabletop as a whole. I'm trying to remember back to like when I first started cosplaying. There was a lot of like kind of that gatekeepy, and like there was still a lot of like creeps at conventions. Like Cosplays Not Consent was just like an idea,
right? Yeah.
It wasn't like a widely adopted policy by a lot of conventions. So like you still got like instances where like friends of mine got groped at conventions, and like people, you know, walking up to you and being like, cool costume, like, do you know who you're cosplaying? Like things
Does
like
that
that.
happen?
Yeah, that happened. And honestly, I haven't seen it for years now.
We're getting better. We're trending. Yeah.
I think that, you know, people are catching on and be like the old guard is dying. Quite literally. But like people are just getting better about it and letting people be nerds and letting people enjoy the things that they enjoy at the level that they enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I've noticed just from being a cosplayer for 10 plus years, being so involved in conventions and then being so involved in like different forms of nerddom,
right?
That it really is getting better out there.
Good.
And we love to see it.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. I mean, we still have to have the combat wheelchair discussion apparently like every 6 months. Oh,
what? Explain.
There's a discussion out there about characters that are disabled. Mm-hmm. And there was one, and I don't have her information, but I will make sure to put it in the show notes. There was one artist, and I want to say she's from England. We talked about it in the show that we did, that basically designed the rules for a wheelchair in D&D.
Wow. And
there are people that were like, oh, that would like, that doesn't fit. Like, what? Like, what? Like, yeah, you can't have that. How are you going to get a wheelchair through a dungeon? You're playing a game. First of all, to quote Preston, let's bring everything back and remember that this is all make-believe.
Yeah.
You're playing a game where you believe that your character can speak to a god, and from that god, you're allowed to cast magic spells that make things explode or levitate or wind or, you know, and you think a wheelchair is too much?
Oh, that's, yeah. Couldn't possibly have a combat wheelchair or all-terrain wheelchair. Like, oh my gosh, that's so. I don't understand that logic of like, this exists in real life, but why do we have to talk about it? Or why is this important in my fandom? Why is this important here? And like, again, representation matters. Yes. And it's like, if you can't, like, you don't know what it's like to be bound to a chair, and you don't know what that means to someone who can then be a hero in the game that they play with that chair. Like, right. It's monumental for people, and it's like, why would you shit on that? I think it's, like you said, it's logic.
It's some of the leftover. It's some of the old guard that's still around, or some of the people that just, like, we talk about it, like, we're two, like, cis straight white guys. Like, there's a limit on how much I'm going to understand without taking the time to talk to somebody who is different.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. And that also limits my stories. And I don't want to, I want the big stories. I want all of it. You know, yeah. I don't understand it. And like we've talked about, if that's the thing that you draw the line on, how shitty of a human being are you being right now?
Right. Yeah. Like, like you said, exploding pepper boxes and dragons and shape shifting, but oh God forbid, like somebody with a disability, like
and that's where you're going to draw the line. What is your favorite cosplay that you do?
Oh man.
Do we need to make it a top 3? Top 5?
Well, it's like, it's been so long since I've cosplayed, and it's been so long since I've made something. I think one of my favorite cosplay of all time that I've ever done is Star Sapphire.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
From DC Comics. It was one of the first cosplays that I ever made from scratch, and I learned a whole lot. And she's just a character that I always loved and identified with, and like fighting, kicking ass with my hair down. Like, that's just ugh. Yeah. And DC has a way with badass brunettes that I just gravitate towards. So like. Oh my gosh. So Star Sapphire, any iteration of Zatanna, I absolutely love. I think I've made like 3 different Zatanna costumes.
Right.
So that's probably my top 3 right there. And then I think the most fun that I have in costume is usually when I'm cosplaying like either Kitana, Melina, or Jade from Mortal Kombat. Mm-hmm. I've made like versions of their costumes, and I always have fun. Just, you know, being badass in costume. So when I was a kid, like, that was what we played live action. Like, we played Mortal Kombat in the backyard.
Nice.
And like on the trampoline, like, we had special moves and stuff. So like, that costume, Katana specifically, was like a dream come true for me. Like, this was like my childhood dreams actualized. So.
That's nice. Awesome. I know that a lot of people that I've talked to talk about, like, there's a lot of power in cosplay for people. Yeah. Like, you get like all the heroes that you grew up with, you can go be that hero.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's empowering in that way to embody your character. And I always found a lot of self-fulfillment in making my costumes. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that that cosplay is limited in any way. So like, if you don't make costumes, if you buy costumes, if you like closet cosplay, that's all valid. That's all, valid to me personally. I like to make things. I like to sew things. So I do find a lot of fulfillment in that. But that in no way limits anybody else's experience.
Sure.
Because that, like, just the act of going out and wearing and having fun in a costume is cosplay.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Right. Whatever you enjoy, you do you, boo boo. Exactly. That's fine.
Exactly.
I love that. Yeah. Exactly. So I know making them is like, there's a skill set to this, and it's varied, right? I mean, you're talking sewing, like you said, dyeing cloth. Yeah. I mean, if you're making anything that even looks like metal or armor, you've got to know how to work all that.
Foam, 3D printing,
right?
Cardboard, like egg cartons, beer boxes. Like, you see the variety of what you can do, which I think is one of the most amazing things about cosplay, because like, you can spend 6 months, 3D printing and designing or using Warbler to make a whole armor set,
right?
Or you can spend an afternoon or a late night, you know, whittling something out of cardboard. Like, either way, it's still so much fun.
Right.
So fulfilling, and just like that's the magic of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever just kind of get to that point, like, you've spent all this time building it and you get done and you finally stop and look in the mirror for the first time? Like, is that something for every cosplay you do? Like, I can only imagine, like I said, the only cosplay experience I had was when my daughter was like, hey, I'm going to do this. And I was like, all right, here we go.
Amazing costume.
Thank you.
You did a really good job.
So I was sewing the pants or the shirt or something, and she comes over and she's like, I didn't know you know how to sew. And I was like, well, that's because you're 10. But yeah, I mean, like, the first time that she put it on and we did her hair and everything, like, I could just, like, you could see that spark. And like, if you, I don't care how you enjoy it, like you said, buy the costume, make the costume, whatever, to transform into that someone else that you want to be.
Yeah.
Like, that just feels like that would be so empowering for people.
Absolutely. And you, it's like it is like a bat signal in the sky, a beacon to your fellow nerds that you love this thing and come and talk to me about it.
Right.
Don't quiz me. Don't try to nerd check me. But
Right.
Like, come and talk to me about it. Come, like, let's take pictures. Let's do poses. Let's geek out. Let's cry together about, like, the last issue. Like, you know,
yeah.
It's that rallying cry. It's that beacon to your fellow nerds to find your people. And cosplay changed my life. So
that's awesome. I love that.
And you mentioned earlier, like, oh, that's when my daughter thought she could be a professional cosplayer. It's like, well, you can really do that. Things have changed just so much in the years that I've been cosplaying. It's like over 10 years. And I feel like I've had my own, like, delusions about it.
Right.
When you find your place, when you find your people, when you find your voice and your own spin on things, then you can turn it into something. And there's so many different opportunities where you can. Like, for example, I have the job that I have now because I started as a cosplayer for a company.
Right.
And worked my way up. And, you know, I had other professional skills that I was able to bring to the table, but, like, I developed those skills working a 9-to-5 job and then, you know, fucking off with my friends on the weekends in costume. Like, so there's ways to do it, and I wouldn't limit anybody in that way. Like, there's so many different avenues to quote unquote be a professional cosplayer. And then even if you're not, there's still ways to enjoy it and do it while pursuing other things.
Yeah. So. I'm always hoping that she'll kind of come back. Like, we play board games and stuff here at the house, and she's played D&D with us, and she's got such a great imagination. She's a little mean sometimes. Like, my goal is for her to make it through high school without stabbing anybody.
Oh,
like,
my
that's
gosh.
which, if she's got a valid reason, I'm going to hear her out. But yeah, so I'm always hoping that she will come back and do something, because she is incredibly creative and stuff still. So, like, she's in that group where it's like, all right, geek is okay, but we're not there yet. So we'll see. So how much of that did you bring over when you started your own business? I mean, I imagine that the skill sets cross over pretty well.
Oh yeah, everything I learned. So when I restore a stuffed animal, there's so many, like, techniques and that there's hard skills. So I'm a self-taught seamstress. Thanks YouTube, thanks trial and error, thanks crying at, again, 3 a.m. over a costume. I hate cosplay. So a lot of those, like, hard skills, you know, transferred over. And if it wasn't something that I necessarily needed to know, it was like a starting point for what I needed to learn. So for example, I use the ladder stitch when closing up stuffed animals. It's like a blind stitch, a slip stitch. I knew that there was a stitch you can do to make the seam invisible.
Right.
So it was like, okay, I have to learn how to do this. So I taught myself how to do it. And then I was like, I need to add fabric here.
Right.
There's a hole. How do I, you know, and then, like, through Googling, it was like adding fabric to a hole. And it was like, do you mean darning? And I was like, yes, thank you, Google. This is what I need to learn. So it was a really good spot to like start and pivot into different, obviously different techniques.
Sure.
I love telling people, I'm like, I'm a seamstress. I have 5 sewing machines that did all the work for me. Like I used to like, I have to hand sew something. Like, what am I, a peasant? Like,
Right.
is this the Victorian age? Like, what is this? They had sewing machines in the Victorian age. And now I like almost exclusively hand sew, and I'm like, oh no, I need my hands. I trust my hands. Like, I have to sew this on my machine. Like,
it's completely 180 now.
Completely flip flopped. But I'd say like the major lesson I learned from cosplay that translated over into stuffed animal repair is that like that idea that you can do anything.
Yeah.
There's a way, and not just one way. There's many ways, and there are many different techniques and materials that you can use to achieve your goals.
Right.
So like that kind of troubleshooting and that exploration phase is what I love the most about whenever I get a new stuffed animal, because no matter how messed up your stuffed animal is, these things love to shreds.
I was going to say.
Shreds. And I always tell people, like, one of my Stuffy Spa slogans is, like, nothing is ever beyond repair. Anything can be fixed. And I mean that wholeheartedly, because there's just always something that you can do.
Right.
And I learned that through cosplay. I learned that in how do I put these two things together? Like, if I can't sew it, my machine's not working, my serger broke a needle, hot glue it is. There's always a way. Like, oh God, don't ever hot glue your fabric. That's just an example. I hate hot gluing fabric. It makes my skin crawl. But there's a way to do it.
Right.
It's an option. It's an option that's out there. So, that really translated and helped me develop the process that I do for stuffed animals. And it's such like such a different art form, I'd say.
That's a good way to put it. I've watched some of the videos, like just the restoration videos that you've done, and I mean, some, like you said, love to shreds is oh my gosh. And then when you're finished with them, though, like, I mean, some of them look brand new,
and it's always really exciting. It's exciting for that to see the transformations that can occur, but it is very much a personal thing for people.
Sure.
And every day I'm just like mind blown that I get to do this for a living, as a job. This is my career. This is the business that I have built. Is that I get to help people hang on to their comfort items. Yeah. And these things are magical in the most like magical in the most magic way. Like,
right.
You have poured your heart and soul, blood, sweat, and tears into this item, and when I unpack these stuffed animals, like, I can feel that. Like, I can feel, you could tell, like, where the seams have come undone, where the fur has been rubbed off, that you can't help but feel the love and feel the magic. And I feel like a gremlin sometimes. I'm just like, yes, give me your loved one. Like, let me feel the magic. Like, but it really is that. I'm just cackling in my workshop, like, I get to cuddle this bear. But then I get to wash them and fix them, and I give them back their memories and their magic in a little heart with their old stuffing, and I get to send them back home. So it's also like I've like conned my way into being a stuffed animal foster mom.
Right. That's great.
Where like I have mountains of stuffed animals, of my own stuffed animals, and I really shouldn't get more. But please send me your stuffed animals so that I can love on them. You'll get them back, I promise. But
right.
Let me love on them. Let me enjoy them and feel the magic that you have shared with them. and then you can have them back.
I love that. And I can only imagine, like, I didn't realize, but stuffies are like a whole other set of the geek community that something that I never got into.
Oh,
like, I had like one or two. My mom made me some when I was a kid.
Where are they at?
Easy. If they still exist, they're in a house in North Carolina. I will be sure to send them to you. She made me pound puppies when I was a kid. She had, and I had like all different sizes. It was crazy. I had them in camouflage. I had them in like blue. I had them in like, it was wild. It was wild. I had a couple of penguins too. I don't know where they went to. But yeah, there is something about it. Like even thinking back on it now, like I remember a lot of stuff you forget about being a child, but I remember having those. Right. You know, so
those are core memories.
Absolutely.
And like there's so many different levels to it. Like there's stuffed animals if you've had them for years. There's the bond that you have made yourself with this stuffed animal, but then there's like, you know, stuffed animals that you've gotten from loved ones, stuffed animals that you've gotten from friends. It just adds more and more layers to it. And like this morning I was feeling really sad, and like I remember texting my husband. He's like, hey, and I was like, hey, I need a hug. He's like, where's your bear? You have so many stuffed animals. I was like, dang, yeah, you right.
Yeah, right.
So I just got up, you know, got some squeezes in, you know, and I felt so much better. I went back to work. And
that's awesome. That's
such
awesome.
Such a simple thing can bring layers and dimensions of love and joy and comfort. So
right.
Again, I'm just, I can't believe this is real life.
Right. I also love that you have somebody that gets you like, where's your bear at?
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
my husband knows that stuffed animals are my love language.
That's awesome.
That's like, yeah, that's the standard in my home. So.
That's fantastic. It has been great just being able to sit down and BS with you and get to hear about the stuff that you love.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like that's the whole point of us having people come in, because like I like doing the podcast with my brother. But man, like hearing what other people get to do, like hearing, you know, your experiences and stuff is, I mean, just such a joy for us and makes us love this community that much more. So thank you so much for coming in and taking the time.
For having me. Thanks for letting me nerd out. We not once talked about Catan.
Oh my gosh. Believe me, if we need a follow-up episode, we'll totally schedule one. All right?
Yeah.
Can we have an episode where we just talk about Catan?
Sure.
Can we have an episode where we play Catan?
We're working on that. I'm working on a camera over the table right now. So.
I'll come back for that.
Perfect. Awesome. Viva Valentina. So where can people find you if they're looking for you online?
Awesome. Well, I am primarily on TikTok and Instagram. You can find me at viva.valentina. I'm also on Twitter and chess.com at Viva Valentina XO. So yeah, I'm not really on Twitter that much, but if you want to, like, I don't know, shoot the shit, like tweet me. Tweet me.
Is that how we do it? I'm horrible at Twitter.
Don't do that. Or if you want to play a game of chess, I'm that's another tabletop.
Sure, that counts.
That I'm just like super into. Yeah, I love playing chess. So find me on chess.com. We'll play some chess.
That's awesome. I love that. And the Stuffy Spa, does it have its own?
And the Stuffy Spa. No, most of it's all on viva.valentina.
Okay.
You can learn more about what I do and a little bit more about how I started my business. And on www.stuffyspa.com. Stuffy is STUFFIE, spa, SPA.com.
Sounds good. I will make sure to put that all in my show notes so you guys can click on it from there. We're going to set up and we're going to do some Know Your Character.
There is nothing more for me to show. You're hiding to breathe, running from me. Do you really wanna be in love?
Hey, so next up on the Dapper Meeple, we're doing Know Your Character. So, Viva Valentina, we invited you to bring your favorite D&D character along. So, let's start with character name.
So, my character is Farron Woods and Twilight.
Farron Woods and Twilight?
Farron Woods and Twilight.
Got it.
Named after Farron, the Farron region in Zelda. And the name came from the Zelda Wikipedia page talking about Faron Woods and Twilight Princess.
Very nice.
And she's a tabaxi, and they have very naturey names.
Sure.
And very descriptive names. So Faron Woods and Twilight fit the bill.
That works out really well. I like it. Yeah. I like it. And she is a 5th edition D&D?
Yes, 5th edition.
What setting? Has she been in multiple settings?
We played a Tal'Dorei.
Okay.
Campaign. So we did. I think we were primarily there.
Okay.
It's been so long.
Yeah. Race.
She is a tabaxi.
Okay, you said.
Yes.
Which if somebody's not playing.
Tabaxi are cat people.
Right.
For Faron specifically, she's more like a cat satyr, if you would like. So my vision of her was like she's less of like a Khajiit and more of a Warren. Warrens are from Breath of Fire, the Breath of Fire video game series. So they're like cat people, but they have like human-like features.
Sure,
they're more like anime cat girls than Khajiit.
Khajiit are okay. So. I like that. I love that I always love when we get to like explain something new. Yeah. That there's people out there like, you probably won't know this, but here's what it is.
Yeah. Someone out there is going to be like, oh yeah, Breath of Fire.
Yeah. So her class.
So she started as a rogue. Rogues are superior. Sorry. And cross-trained into warlock. So at the end of the campaign, she was a rogue warlock.
I like
Hexblade
that.
warlock.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
What type of rogue was?
Arcane trickster.
Okay, that fits. I like it. I like it. So talk about her stats. Now, I just want everybody to know, for those of you that aren't sitting in the room with us, which is everybody, she's got 4 character sheets. So there's.
I've played this character for 3 years.
So this is 4 different versions of this. So we're going to step through some of it. So talk to me about her stats. Like, what was she good at?
Oh, well, Dex. I was fortunate to get her Dex up to 20, like, early. Like,
right.
Dumb early in the game. And again, like, Faron was the character that I would say I started playing D&D with. This was my first campaign. My longest campaign, my longest, nearest, dearest character to my heart. But I really had no idea how to really play or how to develop a character when I started her. So there's a couple things that are just strange. Like she's a rogue. She has very high dex, of course, 20. Everything else is just not really that great.
Right.
There was a moment in the game when a deck of many things was introduced. Yeah, I see your face. And it was great because she like gained a level instantly, and then lost like 3 intelligence points instantly. So it was like one of those things where she was really good at what she did, but was like a little shit about it. And not because she was a little shit, because she was a little shit, but like she just didn't know better.
Right.
Didn't have like the wherewithal to do better. So.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
I love it. So if you kind of came up on her, give me a physical kind of description. We said she was more like anime cat girl.
Yeah, like what's her name? Akali from League of Legends.
Right.
Like, she's like a cat girl. Like she's cute. So like in my mind, she looks like Cat from Breath of Fire 2. Back in this Breath of Fire.
Hey, just so everybody knows, we'll go ahead and put links up to Breath of Fire 2 for the rest of you.
Yeah, I'll send you pictures.
Right?
This is kind of what she looks like.
Okay.
I just imagine her with like darker coloring because her stealth was just ridiculous. I God, where did she end on stealth? By the time he ended the campaign, again, level 19, her stealth was a plus 17. So like just didn't exist.
I was going to say,
do you even roll at that point?
Yeah, like just I stealth.
Even people in your
Trust
party
me.
are looking around for you. Like, is she still with
yeah.
us? So tell me a little bit about her backstory. Like, where did she come from?
So again, not knowing too much about
Sure.
D&D when I first started, like Tabaxi come from Tabaxi land, and I was like,
Feels like somebody phoned that one in.
yeah, I'm like, that kind of seems like diminutive. Tabaxi land, okay. So she was part of a tribe of Tabaxi in Tabaxi land. Was the daughter of the chief. There was like a hostile takeover, and she was supposed to marry like the new leader, and she was like Tabaxi come of age at like 16, so she's 16 years old, and was like, no,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do that.
Nah.
So she like hitched some ride with some pirates and like started, being a rogue, and then ran into her dear friend Whistle, who's a Kenku. When Whistle saved her from getting like hanged, drawn, and quartered after being caught for like cheating or being a rogue.
Doing roguey stuff.
Doing rogue stuff.
Right.
So much like Chewie and Han owed her a life debt and decided to follow her around in Whistle's quest, and then eventually meeting up with the party that we came to know as the party, as the Wings of Fortune.
I was going to ask, do they have a
Yep.
name?
Yes.
Oh,
3 years, remember.
We're coming to that point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't want
Nice.
to get too ahead of ourselves. Yeah, so just kind of, being a just fully grown Tabaxi, traveling the world with Whistle, who's also a rogue.
Right.
Joining up with this party, more so for shits and gigs.
Right.
Very chaotic, neutral character. You can't see this, but I am wearing my chaotic neutral shirt.
I like to keep all my options on the table.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Farron very much was, at first she was very like nonchalant about being in the party, didn't really have any bonds, didn't really have any cares,
Right.
Was always trying to get one over on someone, which is like a far cry from where she ended up, where the leader of our party, who was a bard cleric, ends up dying. So it's like,
Ooh.
oh my god, y'all, like 3 years.
I was gonna say,
this character dies. Who like, and like shout out to my friend David. David played Lewin, his bard, like just perfectly. But he was the heart and soul of our party and led our party and was very much the leader. When he died, Farron, being the little shit that she was like, well, I'm the strongest, because remember she got that free level
Right.
early on. I'm the strongest. I'm the fastest. I'm the smartest. I should be leader. And everyone's like, okay. Until she actually had to be leader,
right?
And ended up, with this burden and responsibility of then saving the world from chromatic dragons, and it was a nightmare. But like the character development.
I was gonna say, like that's real character development. That touches me. I love it. Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about kind of play style. So you said that she could be a little. Would you call it arrogance?
Yeah. Very much like, oh, I'm gonna whoop you because I'm again fast and strong.
Right.
Me as a person, melee all the way.
Sure.
And like again, it just becomes really like funny that she's an arcane trickster rogue. I never wanted to play magic, but at the time we had 3 rogues in the party. And
that's a lot of rogues for a party.
Shout out to Justin, my DM, because he bless his heart. 3 rogues in the party. But there was, there was already a thief, there was already an assassin, so I kind of like fell into this arcane trickster role.
Right.
But her fascination with magic, and again, like Breath of Fire 2, the character Kat that she is based off of in my mind learns magic early on in the game, but you can't use it because she doesn't have enough MP.
Right.
So it's like this thing where she's like, I want to learn magic, but she can't use it. That was very much Farron in the game, where she had magic but didn't quite know how to use it.
Right.
And that was Tina didn't really know how to use it.
I was going to say. Sometimes player knowledge and character knowledge are the same thing.
It sure is. So yeah, I like to bop people. And rogues are superior because we have sneak damage. This is just like, there's nothing that can beat that. Like, oh god, roll an extra 7d6. Like,
yeah,
get out of here.
At level 19, I can just ungodly
ridiculous. Ugly. And then just imagine I had warlock smites on top of that.
I was gonna say, like, where did she take the level of warlock? Like, I love it when the explanation starts that way.
Yeah. And so again, like, Arcane Trickster didn't know how to use her magic, but was like always just interested in it because she saw, like, we had another warlock in the party, and he was just always just murking people, and she's like, yo, yeah, I want that.
Right.
So I took on the feat Magic Initiate, so sort of like halfway in the campaign, to learn some magic, and that goes along with the whole, like, well, I want to learn magic. And then there came a time we were in the Tomb of Annihilation, running kind of that part of the campaign, and she got the opportunity to play around with Moa,
okay.
the snake trickster, snake god.
Yes.
And after we left the tomb, he was like, hey girl, you want magic? Like, all the time? And she was like, hell yeah. So I was able to then become warlock all times, and Hexblade had just come out.
Yeah,
so that was oh man, like, and Hexblade was just fixed everything I think that was wrong with warlock, and not that there was that much, but like having like, you know, your packed weapon and getting smites, and it was just like bopping people with magic,
right,
and like from the shadows sometimes, but also like in your face because she didn't know any better. So having that was kind of like how she got her magic. And I liked playing it because, again, I don't know how the magic works, but with warlock you only have 2 spell slots. Like, you can really only do so much. So again, like, I love rogues because me as a person doesn't like playing magic. I like to just melee, and then being a warlock where it's like, okay, you can kind of have magic, but you can also do really cool stuff, and you can just bop people. Right. And so that really worked for me, and I still think that, like, this combination is always the best. And yeah, so I would always just try to bop from the shadows.
Nice
play style.
I haven't seen a whole lot that warlock does not mix well with, so
I'm convinced that it is like a secondary class. Like, it sorry to all the warlock players out there, but like, you know, it's okay, but then you pair it with, like, rogue or like maybe ranger. Like, there's just so much really cool stuff you can do, especially with Hexblade.
Oh yeah. I know you've really been enjoying playing that character, but do you need an arcane sugar daddy? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I love it. So, like I said, we've got 4 versions of her. Let's start with, like, kind of like the first version of her. Where would you see her fitting in as an NPC somewhere?
In a back alley, like, you need some information, like, this Tabaxi girl who's going to charge you way too much for the information that she collected, might, like, try to rob you as she's getting paid for helping you. Like,
sure.
That's very rogue, very, very chaotic neutral, very, like,
I'm going to get as much out of this job as I can.
Oh, yeah. And then is only going to, like, pay her cohort, like, a quarter of what she got. So.
I thought we were getting 10. I know, it's crazy. We only got 5. Here's your half.
You know, meanwhile, she stole like an extra 20 on top of that. So
I love it. And we definitely talked about character progression. So more towards the end.
So more towards the end, she, you know, found her voice and found her role, I guess, in the world.
Yeah.
Was still, I would say, like, I did end up being chaotic good at the end. I noticed that. I forgot that. Yeah, she did end up, being more so chaotic good.
Right.
More so like, well, yeah, okay, we're war criminals, but like we had a good reason to be that sort of
the ends justify the means type. Yeah.
So maybe like a disgruntled government consultant.
Sure.
Would be you would go to see Farron about like, hey, Minister so and so like gave us this mission, like should we do this? And then she'd be like, no, he's a piece of shit. He tried to imprison my boyfriend and tried to say that we were war criminals, which we were, but we were totally justified in being war criminals. Fuck that guy. Yeah, Farron's like got a medal from the government for saving the world, but like hates it.
She even sounds like a teenager. I mean, that's just the experience that I've had. Like,
yeah. Or like,
yeah, that's just the medal that the king gave me.
Yeah, he was an asshole about it. But...
Had to wait for like 20 minutes. It was just that's definitely how I see her being. Just the character in the corner that's like rolling their eyes, like, aren't you part of this government? Yeah, I am.
Hero of the realm. Hero of the realm.
My actual title is.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Awesome. I love her. She sounds absolutely fantastic. That has been Farron.
Farron Woods and Twilight.
Farron Woods.
Of her tribe.
Her tribe,
name
right?
Something Zelda related.
I always love when our geekdom pulls from like other geekdom too.
Oh,
yeah.
I all of my D&D characters are named after regions in Breath of the Wild.
That's fantastic.
Zelda. I have a Farron, I have an Akala, I have a Lineru, I have a Hebra. I had a Gerudo. Carusa Gerudo was all like a place name and Zelda reference. So all of my D&D characters are Zelda themed because of Farron. So.
That's awesome. I love it. Awesome, guys.
Thank you for letting me talk about it.
Of course. Yeah, please. So if you need to have a rogue NPC in your adventure.
Rogue Warlock.
I'm sorry. Rogue Warlock. Maybe she will guide some of your players to her arcane sugar daddy. And there you go. Farron Woods and Twilight.
Thanks, everyone, for sticking around and listening to our show.
If you enjoyed it, let me ask you a favor. Follow us and leave us a like wherever you get your podcast. It really helps us out.
And if you have anything to say back to us, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook by searching for the Dapper Meeple. On Twitter, our handle is @theDapperMeeple, or email us at dappermeeplegaming@gmail.com.
And as always, we'll save you a seat at the table.